Okay, so this is our 1993 GMC Super Mover. It's a top kick, designed and built by U-Haul, and they are a piece of robust equipment. U-Haul runs them until they've got about 200,000 miles on them, and then they sell them. And they wanted, I don't know, it was a lot of money for this one, but we eventually talked them down because it did have a few issues. The transmission wasn't quite shifting right. It had some other stuff, and we picked this truck up for $2,800.
Yeah.
Yeah, with 223,000 miles, I think we're on it, and we got it home and tuned it up real good, got it running. It had a 366 industrial gas engine in it, and it would just scream going down the road and suck all kinds of terrible fuel. So we found a Dodge pickup that had it was a 91 Dodge with 5.9 Cummins, and we were able to pull the motor out of the pickup, and then with the adapters from a school bus, we were able to connect it up to the truck transmission, which was a 4-speed Allison. And we had the transmission rebuilt because I knew the clutch plates were kind of tired. And also we had to change the governor because a diesel engine shifts at different shift points than a gas engine. So anyway, we're gonna open the hood. It's not the cleanest transplant, but it's cheap and it just flat out works.
And it sips the fuel. What's the fuel now that it's a diesel?
It's almost 30 miles to the gallon, which absolutely sounds ridiculous, but a Cummins 12 valve really doesn't use much fuel at all. And the overall truck doesn't actually weigh as much as you would think. It's a 2-ton, but it's a lightweight 2-ton. So anyway, I'll open the hood up and point out a few things. Okay, one of the cool things about a GMC Top Kick is, first of all, look at the hood. If you need to get in and work on this truck, there is not that much to do. All you do is pop the hood open, pull a pin right here, and then the wheel well just lifts it out.
Just like that.
And then look at that. You have all the access to work. And if you're much of a mechanic and you can't fix something in there with this much access, you got other problems. This is pretty easy. You can climb right inside there. The brilliant thing that U-Haul did was they made these trucks so that they were, they could be worked on by just about anybody. Jamie, if you come up here, I'm going to show you. So I had to get some industrial engine mounts. That one came off the truck and had to be re-drilled and worked out. For the back, these industrial transmissions carried the back of the engine, so you didn't even use the engine mounts from the side of the engine, which just made it a breeze to put in.
Oh, and there's the Dodge Ram Cummins turbo diesel. That's proof that we have an actual swapped from gas to diesel.
Yeah. And anyway, the hardest part was getting the kickdown bracket to work, which wasn't bad at all. I think I took the original GMC bracket and just drilled a couple of holes and made it work here on the Cummins. This is the original throttle cable. There was not a good way to hook that there. I'm sure somebody makes a bracket for that out there, but I didn't have it.
That's the way you made it work for now.
Yep, and so it kicks down. It does everything that a transmission like this is supposed to do. And anyway, now it works just fine. The other thing we did is the rear end is a 554 rear end. So if you know anything about gearing, that's super low. So to get an overdrive, and with a diesel engine, a Cummins is a great engine, but you're really asking it to turn pretty hard and fast with a 554 rear end. And your top speed would only be 45, maybe 50 miles an hour. It'd be terrible. And the wear and tear that would put on the engine would be awful also. So what I did is I got talking to some other guys, and I found an old junkyard. And the guy out there, his name was Gertie, and he was great. Love that guy. he said, well, why don't you just take a old transfer case and turn it around backwards, and now you're underdriven, overdriven, I guess overdriven. So anyway, you take a 554, and with a new process, I think it's a 205, it's a divorce mounted gear driven transfer case out of a 4-wheel drive. We just turned it around backwards and had to cut the drive shafts and hook it back up again, and then put a shift lever in the cab, and I'll show that to you in a minute. So basically, if you're traveling mostly flat ground, you run in the transfer case would be in 4 low, which makes 2 high now, and it splits that rear end down to like a 270 something, 272, 273, which is great for the highway. And then when you need to climb the hills, you just pull over, put the transmission in neutral, shift into direct, which is the conventional 2-wheel drive gearing, and now you have a 554 rear end to climb whatever you want to with, and really you can go as fast as you want to uphill with this thing. It's unbelievable. But I'll show you real quick the shifter that we put in.
Okay.
It's right here, and you kind of have to look back underneath here. There's some fireplace logs, but I don't know where it came out of. I just happened to find that shift lever in an old, what do you call it? I don't know. It was off of a crane truck or something. And then I got a high-low here switch, but it does not work. It was going to be hooked up to the torque converter, and that just became too complicated, so I never actually did it.
There you go. So we're happy we did this.
Once we put the Cummins in it, there was no more roadside issues.
I'll try to get in here again and give you guys another view. We actually, when we did this, it was, man, we bought this in 2009, but you actually did the conversion a few years or a year after we had it.
Yeah.
So this has been in this top kick for over 10 years.
Yeah.
We were not smart enough to video the process. I think we have maybe 3 or 4 pictures. I think I have the engine being lifted out. So we weren't smart as far as documenting this, because we don't know of anybody that has done this.
We actually did document it, but it disappeared somewhere. We'll dig
find
around
it.
and see if we can find the files sometime.
So that is the part, for all you gearheads and motorheads out there, this is the mechanical aspect to what we've done to this U-Haul.
You know, as a side note, I should tell you, this brake is, they call them hydraulic over juice or whatever that means. I don't know. It's not air driven. It's actually a hydraulic brake, and it runs off the power steering pump. And all we had to do is plumb that into the slave cylinder for the master cylinder. And shoot, it worked like a dream. The only thing that we could not sort out was the speedometer. And somebody out there probably knows how to do it. For whatever reason, we couldn't get the speedometer to work, and I think it's probably because the speedometer inside of the dash was already broken.
Possibly. It's a U-Haul.
And so if we could get it to read at all, it would read your half speed. So if you were at 60, it would only show 30 on the speedometer. So you just had to remember, okay, if I see 30 miles an hour on the speedo, I'm really doing 60.
60, yeah.
Yeah, so that was one of the things. Now, the other thing too is when you operate a truck like this with a 554 rear end, you're really asking those drive shafts to spin super hard and super fast. And I learned something about over speeding a drive shaft when we first got it, because you could hear the harmonics. There's 4 drive shafts because the truck is so long. Those 4 drive shafts have to line up, and they don't perfectly. And so there would be harmonics that would get going, and you would hear it going down the road. And then we realized, okay, even though you can with the Cummins run at 80 miles an hour,
doesn't mean you should.
Doesn't mean you should. And so, you know, as a younger guy, I wanted to get to where I was going in a hurry and show off while I was doing it with the big Cummins. But the older, wiser me said, no, time to slow down. We need the mechanical parts to stay in the truck.
Need them to function for a while.
And so we slowed it way down and just kept our cruising speed to 65, which for a truck like this is pretty ridiculous, especially from that era. The 90s trucks like this were pretty much designed to run between 45 and 60 miles an hour top speed. So,
do you have anything to add about the actual process, the day that you pulled the gas engine out, and any?
There was a few tricks. We had to, in the gas tank, there was a fuel injection pump that was just a standard Chevy tank pump, which are found commonly just about everywhere. And all I had to do is take that fuel injection pump off of the end of the fuel straw and extend the straw, and then I rigged up a filter sock on the end of the straw just in case we ever got any bad fuel, so that it would pre-filter before it got to the fuel filter. And that worked out tremendously. Although my wife will tell you that when I first did it, Chevys have one fuel straw goes to the bottom of the tank and the other one kind of goes in about, I don't know, 8-10 inches or so. Well, I'd gotten busy, kids crawling all over my back, trying to build a big RV for the family, all excited, answering the phone, running a business, talking to friends, blah, 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 neighbors coming by, all that kind of stuff. And in the middle of it all, I confused the fuel straw so that we were taking fuel from the return line, which was sitting higher in the tank instead of the bottom of the tank. And so what that meant is we drove all the way into Los Angeles towing our Jeep, left our relative's house, went up into Hollywood, and we ran out of fuel right in the middle of Hollywood. And there is no place to turn off. So we were on the pie-shaped sliver between 101 and the off-ramp into downtown Hollywood, and stuck there until I could get the Jeep unbolted. And this is traffic whizzing by us, both sides, you know, at whatever speed.
Going off the off-ramp on the right side of us, and then whizzing by us.
LA traffic, it's just car to car to car, and you know, just ready to get killed at any minute. My wife and 2 kids are quivering inside the RV. I managed to get the Jeep unhooked. I had to drive the Jeep up the off-ramp, turn around, go back probably 15-20 miles before I could find a gas station.
Because nobody in Hollywood drives a diesel vehicle.
Yeah, so Hollywood does not sell diesel. And so I had to go find diesel somewhere in downtown LA somewhere. And then, you know, go find a gas can. We didn't have any of this stuff. And here I'm driving around this great big lifted Jeep. Get back to the truck and had to prime the truck and do all that on the side of the freeway with my wife cranking the starter and me popping injectors to bleed the air out.
Yeah, priming the injectors,
And boom, off it went, and we took off, and I was never so tired in my life. Oh, that was stressful.
That was quite the interesting place to run out of gas.
Run out of diesel.
And then leave your wife and 2 little kids.
Note to self, just, you know, when you're hooking up the fuel straws, make sure nobody else is around, and you just got a minute to focus on what you're doing so you don't confuse your fuel straw.
Yes. Don't let that happen to you. Don't be that guy, because we've done it. Been there, done that.
Yes, we have.